on Facebook, which is now the old people's Instagram. I happened to notice her name popping up with some friends of mine, Gary G. Yeah. And Ashley Gervitz.
Nora.
Maybe it's Ashley Nora.
Yeah, that's her art name.
Oh, okay. So she kept popping up and I kept seeing her artwork and they were doing some amazing things. And I was like, well, if she's doing what they're doing, I want to follow her too. And then I saw that she was continuing to be very, very engaged in community-based activism using her skills and gifts. She is a multimedia artist, not just using paint, but also a designer by trade, or designer by, I don't know how exactly. I'm gonna let her tell you all the things that she does so amazingly well. But the reason I asked her to come and talk is because I saw that she, along with others, made a sacrifice of time to create an impactful statement downtown on Indiana Avenue. She is one of the artists who participated in creating the Black Lives Matter painting on Indiana Avenue itself. I don't think we really truly understand that as a gifted people, we have to really search out all of our gifts and use them to the best of our ability to make sure the world understands that we do matter and that we aren't going anywhere and we're only going to make a bigger and better impression on the world each day. So without further ado, because I'm starting to put the McTush sisters to sleep, which is what I do on a regular basis when I talk. I present to you Ms. Robinson.
How's everybody doing? Well, I'm originally from Indianapolis. I lived in Atlanta for years and years. I graduated from North Central High School. Yeah, when I was in high school, and I'm sure a lot of you, it's a weird stage in your life. You know what I mean? You're kind of caught in between, like, still being a kid and then going into that adult stage, and then the pressure of what you want to do when you graduate. College is for some people, it's not for everybody. But it's really just finding what it is that really makes you happy, but also making a living at it too. So that's really important. When I first got out of high school, for some reason I wanted to go into fashion, and I think it was just because, most women, and most people, but as a female, I wanted to explore more about fashion and being a fashion designer. So I ended up taking that route. I went to Atlanta, and I have a fashion design degree, and went to school, got an associate's degree in fashion design. Come to find out, I was like, I'll probably never get a paid job being a fashion designer. It just seemed like it was impractical. There was a lot of hype around it. And not to say it's something you can't pursue, but realistically, I just don't know if that was like the right direction for me. And I knew I had more to say, with my artwork. And I ended up going back to school to study more about the arts. So today they call that a mixed media artist. When I was in school, my degree was called visual communications. So that makes sense, communicating visually. But I went to a HBCU. It's called North Carolina Central University in Durham, North Carolina. So I was introduced to all aspects of art, from printmaking, photography, branding, marketing, fine art, figure drawing, graphic design, and I was really lucky to be introduced to all those things, because it really gave me a sense of all the things that are, that are art that are around us, but how could I play my part in being a professional artist. So after graduating, I think back then everybody was assuming if you had an art degree that you were gonna do graphic design. I could do graphic design, but my heart wasn't really in it. But if it was to get the job that I wanted and get more experience and skill, I didn't have a problem doing that. But I was really good at a number of things. But my heart and my passion was always with painting and designing. So when probably a few years after college, you know, a lot of people decide, you know, they want to start their own business. So I did lean towards the fashion, but I also incorporated my fine art. So I started a company called Snob. It's spelled P-S-N-O-B. And I was making these one-of-a-kind handbags. I mean, they're still amazing, but I spent a good 10 years or more branding myself as a designer, but also a painter. And I was making these beautiful handbags out of my artwork. I would paint on murals, cut them, sew them, make them into these really high-end handbags. But people just weren't getting it, and it took a toll on me financially, just mentally, how I was gonna fit in the industry as a Black woman in fashion. And I had to step away from it because I felt like if I didn't enjoy it anymore, it just wasn't worth it. And I said, well, you know, I don't want to give it up, but I want to put it on the shelf for a while. So I ended up moving back to Indianapolis in, I think it was like 2012. And I said I didn't want to talk about the handbags anymore because everybody knew me as the girl that made purses. And I wanted to be respected as an artist. So when I came back to India, I was really concerned because, you know, people, when they start an art career or in the arts, they go to New York, they go to LA, you know, and I was in Atlanta. So coming back to Indianapolis, I was like, I don't know, the culture here was lacking, the art scene was lacking. I was like, it ain't it, but what could I do to change that? And I'm originally from here. I wanted to start meeting other artists that were here that were kind of making some noise. So over the next few years, I just started painting again. I didn't talk about the handbags, and I started building more relationships. So one thing to do as an artist here is to build a relationship with the Indianapolis Arts Council. And that's it's a challenge, of course, because once you can have a great relationship with the Arts Council, they take you seriously as far as doing projects and commissions and, you know, take you serious as a true artist. And it's interesting, and I'm saying all these things because it's just interesting how the universe works and how God works. Because sometimes you have this amazing plan and it never goes in that direction. And one of my goals was to do the Billboard Project. And the Arts Council does an art call every year of artwork, and they put it on this, you know, huge billboard, and it rotates around the city for like a year. So that was major for me. I applied for that for about 5 years. The last time I said I was gonna apply, I was like, this is the last time I'm gonna do it, and I won't apply again. I got in, and what was crazy, what they picked, I did this piece called Protest, and it's on one of the slides, so I don't know if this is on a loop or what.
You know, it's not on a loop, but I can.
Yeah, if you can,
Yep.
find it.
I'm looking for the billboard.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. And here's, this is a gift that they gave me. So I got the billboard, and I'll pass it around if you guys just want to take a look at it. So there's the billboard, and can you imagine how amazing that is? Doing artwork and then finally seeing it, you know, on such a massive scale, and I was like, wow, you know, I'm on to something. So I did this, and then maybe about, I want to say 6 months later, I do a lot of art shows in the city, a lot of exhibits, and we were doing a show. I can't remember the theme, but I had this idea. It was heavy on my heart. You know, there was a lot of tension kind of going on. This is right before George Floyd was killed. And I had this idea, you know, about paying tribute to Trayvon. And so I did this piece called The Hoodie and All of Us. And when I say I'm a mixed media artist, I mean, I work with everything. So it could be acrylics, it could be oils, sculpting, wood, metals. I just love creating anything. And so my idea was to create a hoodie because of the stereotype. And it's just unfortunate just because you have a hooded sweatshirt on that someone thinks the negative, or they think you're there to do something negative, or, you know, you're a thug, you're this and that. And so I did this hoodie on here that just represents the hoodie and all of us, but how do you change that narrative about the positivity of the person and not the apparel? But it was missing something. It was white, and I was like, it needs something else on there. So I added the all-black United States on there. So keep in mind, I did this in like February, March, April, May. George Floyd was killed. So then the protests started happening. The Arts Council reached out to me and said, hey, you know, as a matter of fact, I think we were under quarantine, and they chose maybe 24 artists to do a mural for racial justice. So I said, sure, I'll do it. You know, it was an opportunity for me as a Native, me to express how I felt about the unjust that was going on in our city. I think downtown, it was boarded up at that point, all the looting and, you know, just the dis-ease that was going on. So I ended up coming up with an idea and trying to incorporate this. And I did a mural downtown. It's still downtown now, and it's called New Nation. And I ended up, this is, and you can pass this around too, but I ended up on the front page of the Indianapolis Star, and I did this mural called New Nation, and it's a silhouette of a human being kneeling with a flag. The flag is in all black, and it was just coming full circle. And one thing that I started working with, is very non-traditional, but concrete and tar. And I was doing delicate things. I was working with, you know, your traditional mediums, but I wanted something different. I wanted something gritty. I don't know if you guys know, well, I'm sure you know Kendrick Lamar, but he has this song that's called "You Gonna Be Alright." It's something about that song, and if you listen to the lyrics, if you watch the video, it's in black and white, and it just spoke to me, and I wanted something really just to embody and encompass that. And I really started playing around with new materials. And I've been working with concrete and tar for about 6 or 7 years now. So the piece downtown, if you go to Union Station or Meridian, this piece is probably about 30 feet by 20 something feet, all in concrete. Had to mix my own mortar. I worked with tar. It's huge. It's still there. So, you know, please try to see it if you get a chance. So after that happened, I think the summer, I think it was August. So everyone was still protesting here in the city, around the country, around the world. I ended up seeing a call to do a mural on Indian Avenue. And I said, I'll give it a shot. I was like, I really want to be a part of that. I really want to be a part of history. I know there were hundreds of people hundreds of artists that wanted that opportunity, but for whatever reason, it was right time, right place, and I was one of the 18 that ended up doing the mural on Indian Avenue. I had the letter L in black, and do you all remember the mural? Did any of you guys go down there to see it? not everybody. And what was interesting about this mural on Indiana Avenue, and then, you know, if you don't know, I mean, Indiana Avenue is a major landmark here. You know, we have some, you know, wonderful things about our history, Black history, the Black businesses that were there, the music that came from there, and unfortunately, so many things are gentrified and taken from us. And there were people that went to see this mural that had never even been on Indiana Avenue before. And that's unfortunate that sometimes we live in a city, we don't even know our own history. During the mural, and I will say the day that we did the mural, we had 2 days to finish, and everything was fenced in. There were people there with guns to protect us. We were getting harassed. But I will say this, the 18 of us that were there, we made sure we, you know, stayed the course and was focused about what we wanted to do. We had free reign to put what we wanted inside each letter. So, you know, if you ever get a chance and you want to go online and kind of really zoom in to see what everyone had to say. And the day was beautiful. Matter of fact, I broke my hand the day of the mural, but nothing was going to stop me from painting. I ended up taking a fall, and I think I have a picture on here. Yeah. Yeah.
Love that picture too. My way around there. So then you do it, oh wait, I see.
Yeah, I was doing stencils, I think, the night before, so I was really tired and I took a fall, and so I thought like, okay, my hand just kind of hurts, and then I ended up painting for 2 days, and then I went to the emergency room and I broke my hand. But I still did it. I was like, I don't care. And it was the best time of my life, you know. What was really sad, you know, I'd say probably not even a week after we did the mural, someone came with buckets of paint and they threw it all over the mural and defaced it. And it was really heart-wrenching for all of us because we worked so hard, and we all had a positive message. And we were in discussion about painting over it and doing it, and then we decided to say, you know what? No, that is just a symbol of hate. That's what we are dealing with every day. So we're not gonna let them win, and we're gonna show the world, you know, we did something beautiful, we did something amazing, and then here comes somebody that just wanted to ruin that for us. But it just propelled us even more. And if you don't know, it was 18 of us, but we collectively decided to keep this going. It can't just stop at the Black Lives Matter on Indiana Avenue. There's so many things that we wanted to do, encouraging other artists, reaching out to young people about having a career in the arts or just entrepreneurship. And we decided to form a collective called B18. And I can't believe it's been 2 years. And every artist that's in 18, they're all, you know, individually unique and talented and just really beautiful people. And we're doing some really amazing things here in the city. And I would say in the last 2 years, the art scene has changed so much. I mean, you could probably go anywhere here in Minneapolis, and now you're gonna be driving down the street and see Black art. I mean, that is monumental, and I'm so grateful that I was able to be a part of that and continue to encourage, you know, young people as far as becoming their own business people, becoming an entrepreneur. You could be an artist, but you definitely need to understand the business side. Excuse me, thank you. You definitely need to understand the business side of being a creative. So I don't know, you know, each of you individually or what you choose to do as far as a career or what you plan to do as far as participating in the Black Lives Matter movement, or how you may want to change the world in some form or fashion. But I truly believe if you just engage and build relationships and do things like this. This is special for me. I speak at different places all over the city to young kids and adults. I think we all kind of want a piece of some knowledge or learn about someone else's experiences. And we would be here a long time if I talked a lot about all the things that I've been through as an artist, but mainly in the last 2 years, just the amazing experience that I've had being a part of the Black Lives Matter movement. One thing that was really special, I think maybe it had to be at least a year after we did the mural, we made national news. We were getting pulled left and right with doing just different projects and things like that. And then we were told they were going to tear up Indiana Avenue. And I kind of think that it was already known that it was going to happen. And maybe that's why they let us do it. But at least for that time, we were able to really make history. But what was really nice, and we are working towards how we're still going to keep the narrative and preserve it. And right now, all the letters of the mural are at the Children's Museum. It's an exhibit, and each of the artists have interviews. You can see the letters. I think it'll be up for 2 years. So if you have younger siblings or even you guys, please stop by the Children's Museum to see that. But a construction crew actually went on Indiana Avenue and gave us all a piece of our letter. And I brought that for you guys. So, once we wrap up, I would love for all of you to be able to come up and you can actually, you can touch it if you want and maybe feel like you're a little bit closer to history. And this is my letter right here. So once we wrap up, then you can check that out. I just wanted to really just introduce myself and talk a little bit more about the mural, and then you can go through a couple of the slides maybe I've already mentioned. So that's the 18, and it's so funny when I look at this picture, how much people have grown today. You know what I mean? Like I knew a few of them, a few of the artists, but now we've become family, and I'm talking about like Zooms like every other week, or we have a group chat, like we're just busy doing murals around the city and just getting commissions and things like that. So this was a really amazing day. That piece, well, my hoodie, it's hung at a few different venues. At this particular venue, it was at the Symphony Orchestra downtown on the Circle. Now, that was monumental too, because they weren't hanging Black art, so yeah. This is a piece I did out of the concrete and tar. It was called Hands Up, Don't Shoot. This was at the Arts Council of Indianapolis. And that's an image, after, over a year and the cars rolling over it. And it was really sad going down to see it, and it deteriorated. So that's why it's so important that I still have a piece of the mural. That's just a screenshot. I do a lot of interviews, and my John Lewis piece, and are all of you familiar with the great and the late John Lewis? He was the reason why I did his portrait. In my letter for the Black Lives Matter mural, I put Good Trouble in there, and I will always admire him and the part he played in civil rights. That's me downtown mixing mortar for my mural downtown, and let me tell you, it's a lot of work. And that's the piece that's downtown. It's still there now. So when they do decide to bring it down, right now I want to have a home for it, a permanent home. So I'm in talks with the State Museum, Historic Society, because I truly feel like it needs to be acquired and it needs to have a permanent home. And that's from the paper. No, you're fine. It's another interview we were doing. So we were doing a lot of media. It was a busy couple of years. And And that's a picture from the paint that was thrown on there. I was the first person on site. We got an email around 2 or 3 in the morning that someone had thrown paint on it, and I said, well, I want to go down there and see it for myself. So I went live, and actually, I think CNN used my footage to run the story, and it was really heartbreaking to see that. But maybe if the paint wasn't thrown on there, I don't know if I would be standing here talking about it today. Was that all of them?
No, there's more, you know. I told you about my challenge.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's my website. But yeah, I want to give some time to see if you have any questions, or is there anything that you would like me to specifically speak on? Oh, I brought that as an example. I work with all kinds of mediums, like I said. So I love figurative work, abstract work. I used to do artwork with a lot of color, and I have the table set up there, so when we're done, you're welcome to go up there. But here's an example of one of my handbags, and I'll just pass it around. So as you see, you know, when I was doing the purses, they were really bright, and I'll pass this around too. They're made from the actual canvas, and I would cut the canvas and sew them into the purses. And I think when you're doing something, and it's like I said, I just got beat down with it, and I wanted to take a different direction. And I started experimenting with different mediums, but also working in black and white. Most art shows, people recognize my work right away, because I'm probably the only one that's using concrete and tar, and then the black and white. And I have some pieces now at, let's see, at the Central Library. I don't know if you guys have heard of Meet the Artist. Has anyone heard of Meet the Artist? So Meet the Artist was, it's been going about, I want to say 32 years strong. And Anthony Radford, older gentleman, we're in a art collective together as well. It's called We Are Indie Arts. Tony, old school, he was one trying to open doors for black artists years ago. So he created a platform at the Central Library for black artists and designers, and it's still going strong today. We have a show there featuring the 18, so you're welcome to go there during business hours to check that out. It's a beautiful show. And we also have, so as the collective, we do a lot of art shows together. So we have a show at Saks Fifth Avenue as well, so you can check that out. And it's Black History Month, so it's kind of like a lot of stuff back to back. Oh, any other questions? I know you guys got some.
So I had a question. So what was it like convincing your parents this is kind of what you wanted to do, like when you were younger? It's like for me, like I want to go into cinematic arts and then minor in business, and my parents don't really understand that. They're like, how is that gonna like give you money and you're gonna live the way you want to live and stuff like that? So like, what are kind of like the things you had to do?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I remember I was dating a guy that went to Lawrence Central, and maybe that's why. No, but no, he was cool. But his mom, when we were dating, I think it was like our junior year. We were going into our senior year, and she was asking, and he's a dentist now. I won't give it away who it is, but you might go to him. But his mom was asking us asking me, like, oh, well, Becky, what are you gonna do when you get out? And I was like, oh, I wanna have an art degree, da da da. She's like, I'm not gonna make any money, I'm not gonna get a job. And to this day, I mean, it's been 20, I don't wanna say how many years later, but you know, that still resonates in me because it hurt me. And I kept thinking like, why? Being an artist, why is that taboo? Why can't I have a true career in that? Why can't that be realistic? So maybe unconsciously pursuing a degree in art and a career in art, I was doing it to kind of prove others wrong, but I had to prove it to myself too. And all I can say is if you truly believe in what you want to do, it's gonna happen. The opportunities will present themselves. And you just have to be really serious about it. And like I said, as an artist, you have to know the business side too. And one thing that I did, I wrote a book, and it's called Art's Honor. And I brought it so I wouldn't forget. And it touches on that. And it's this would be great for you as well. Just as a reminder, it's like a reference. So when you're feeling, defeated or unsure, or you need a little motivation, it's just a quick source to remind you that you're on the right track. So the reason why I call it Art's Honor was to honor everything in the arts. If you look around you, everywhere, from your clothes, your style, this room, architecture, your car, your accessories, everything is art. It is. We make the world go round, and I think we make the world a better place. And I think we definitely need more props for that. And I'll read a couple of things from here. So it's really quick, and it's the alphabet. So every letter of the alphabet is an affirmation. So I just randomly pick the letter O, and the word is originality. If you always strive to be original, you will respect yourself and others will respect you too. Honesty. Artistry is about being original in your own right. Continue to create honestly and you will always be able to sleep at night. I'll do one more. The letter B for build. Build strong relationships with other artists, art enthusiasts, and those who are new to art. You'll be respected for your genuine interest in establishing and continuing important relationships. So this book is really kind of a go-to book for me and for a bunch of other people too. Any other questions? Sure.
I'm assuming that concrete guitars are really hard to use to work with. How does that process work?
Yeah, it's I've like I said, I've perfected it, but normally I have to mix some mortar and the concrete, get it a certain consistency. I usually paint on or apply it to wood. I've learned to incorporate canvas as well, but I lay the concrete first and then I paint with a caulk gun. I put the tar in the gun, and I don't use brushes anymore. Art supplies are super expensive, so everything's done with my fingers because I've ruined so many brushes and it's very expensive. And then the fun part is working with negative space. So black and white, it's tricky. So if you see this image, up close it's really muddy and you can't really tell. As you back away from it, you can really see it. But the white brings out the black. So if I put too much white, it drowns it out. If I don't put enough, it won't bring out the image. So I pour the white just enough, to make the image shine through. So that, even with the piece over there, that's acrylics, but I still kind of use that negative, play on negative space. And I would love for all of you to be able to, I let people touch it if I'm around. So you have to touch it so you can see what it feels like. Sure.
You talked about how you had to know the business side of art. As a black, you as a black woman, how did you make a seat for yourself at a table that most black people aren't really necessarily welcome?
I guess I had to make my own seat at the table. I don't know, maybe it's just my personality. I guess I'm pretty lucky with just having the personality to do research or to think about protecting certain things. But I've gotten in some trouble too, and it teaches you. And I'm glad you brought that up because I think I have it. I copyright and trademark everything because there's some people out there that don't. But so when I did the New Nation, I did a trademark New Nation. And I teach a lot, and I also did a copyright on it, but like I said, I copyright and trademark everything. But even with upcoming artists, I teach them about the importance of protecting your work and intellectual property and learning about contracts. I did a film, it's out now, it's called The Color of Medicine, and I brought a poster, I might show it to you later, but I wanted to pay tribute to my dad and my granddad, and I'm really a stickler about our history and preserving that and stories. You know, talk to your parents, talk to your grandparents, talk to just elders, you know, because we're the ones that have to preserve that. And my father had some really amazing stories. My father will be 90 years old next week. So he's an amazing person, retired physician, but he was one of, you know, the blacks that were here that were practicing medicine. And I wanted to honor that. So I ended up doing this film called The Color of Medicine. It took me 6 years to do this film. And you can watch it on Prime or YouTube or whatever. But I went through a lot with that, and it taught me a lot on the artistic side and the business side. And the business partners that I had, they, just put it this way, that relationship ended because of greed. And it's really sad because you're trying to do the right thing. I've made a lot of sacrifices, and some people are just more money driven, but I had to learn the hard way. I said I'll never let that happen to me again. So when it comes down to contracts and reading certain things, I don't care what is put in front of you, read it. And if you don't understand it, have someone else read it. And if you have questions, never feel like, well, I didn't know. That's never gonna be an excuse. So I always say that to anybody, you know, if you don't understand, just always ask questions.
You mentioned living in other areas in the United States. How would you describe our regions and from an artistic perspective? Like, you know, when you look at the West Coast, it seems very liberal, and then the East Coast is very conservative, but would you say that's the same from an art perspective too, or do you feel like it's, you know, like how would you describe just like how our country is divided or how our country views art based on where you live?
Yeah, and that's a great question too, because it seems like, you know, larger cities embrace, you know, art, and it was a lot more liberal. I don't know if it's just a Midwest thing. I don't know if it was just even a black art thing. But when it came down to seeing black art, it wasn't around us, you know, here in our area as far as being in the Midwest. Maybe Chicago, St. Louis. I think St. Louis, Columbus, Ohio, it seemed like they had more of an art scene than we did. And it was just really strange to me. And most people that are not as involved in it, you just don't recognize it. But I know that there was a shift, because now you can't go anywhere in Indianapolis now without hearing something about black art or diversity and inclusion. If I hear that one more time, you know, it's great that it's happening, but it's why did all this have to happen for this to happen now? Why, it's like almost like company code now to have it in the bylaws or in the contract, diversity and inclusion. I get phone calls, emails all the time to come and speak or share and this and that. Why is it just starting now? But even though it is, I'm glad that we're embracing it and we're pretty much taking over, because now it's almost like they don't know what to do. It's going like this, and I'm so proud of that, because we are putting Indianapolis on the map. And I know a lot of people didn't want to move here, or they thought we were slow, or we was country, and you know, just negative. But we have some talented people here. I mean, some brilliant people come out of Indianapolis. We have some amazing history, and I'm just honored to be a part of that. And I ran from Indianapolis. Like I said, I was living in Atlanta, but something brought me back. And I think it was definitely meant for me to come back. And I want to leave my footprint here and encourage other people. Yeah. Any other questions? Sure. Well, I have my card here, so if you guys want to know about anything that's going on in the city, if you want to just reach out to me. And the gentleman back there, email me. Anything you want, you know what I mean, as far as like just getting your foot in the door, if you want to showcase. And it's not just art related. If it's entrepreneurship, if you just have questions about something, just email me. Some people are just, I don't know what it is, like when they get to a certain point in their career, or maybe they get to a certain status and they're not approachable or obtainable. But I really enjoy encouraging other people or paying it forward. Let's just put it that way. And I'll give you what I can, and then I'll send you on your way, and it's up to you to what you do with the information. But yeah, I mean, I have my cards there, and now that we've met, don't look at it like I just came to speak and to bore you, because trust me, I do speak at a lot of engagements, and somebody takes something away every time. Even if there was people that didn't enjoy it, trust me, they remember something, or they had an experience. So it's always a pleasure to make friends and to build relationships. So that's how I like to look at it. Yeah. Any other questions?
So when you like start valuing yourself and like things feel hard for you, what keeps you going?
She asked me when things get hard for me, and what keeps me going, what keeps me motivated. I just love being a creative. I think I'm like that same kid. Like, I think I should have been the first Annie, like the first Black Annie, to be honest. Yeah. I was just a really energetic kid. I went to Montessori school. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but it's like 50 kids there, very non-traditional learning. It was about being free and learning about yourself. We didn't have grades, and we had to take ballet and Latin and learn French, and it was great. We could go outside if we wanted to, all day. But it did teach me about friendship. It taught me about respecting other people, other nationalities and backgrounds and social status, and respecting people and being kind and being generous. And it was a shock for me, because when I left, it was called Children's House. When I left there, I think I was 11 or 12 and went straight to West Lane. And let me tell you, that was culture shock, okay? I'm thinking like, do you want to be my friend? And they're like, girl, you got to. But I was always the kid that was sitting at a table, and let's say there was someone sitting way over there. I would go over there, and I would become their friend. And I wanted to know more about them. And so when I think about being motivated, what keeps me encouraged, I think it's just sharing what I know and the things that I've been through, and touching other people or encouraging other people. I love being an artist. I've had every job you could think of, part-time, full-time, you name it. And it taught me a lot of skills. It taught me a lot about how to become an entrepreneur. All these little things that I've done has taught me along the way. So I think it's good to get those experiences. College was great for me. So I think just at the end of the day, I don't see myself doing anything else but being a creative. Yeah.
Has art always played a role in African American civil rights activism, or is that a new thing?
I believe art has played a major role, because art is using your voice, a visual voice, and it's a strong voice at that. Some people can't express the way they feel. Maybe they write, maybe they paint. And one thing that John Lewis always said, speak up, always speak up and use your voice, and always speak out against injustice. And there's different ways to do that, and art has brought communities together. It sparks a dialogue. I say art is the universal language. Whether we speak the same language or we're from a different place, art really does touch people, and it allows us to even take a walk in someone else's shoes or see someone else's perspective. So I think even with all of you, and I'll close by saying, you know, find something in you that you really love to do, something, and I don't even want to call it a hobby, but whatever that outlet is, feed that. And I think that would definitely help give some perspective to what you see doing in the future, how you can contribute. Like I said, building certain relationships, and you have to have a sound mind. My dad always says, learn to manage your mind, because we have a lot of things going on in society, social media, we have a lot of influence, but if you learn to manage your mind and find certain things that bring you joy and bring other people joy, I think you're on the right track, so. Anything else? Okay.
I kind of had time like to think of 3 questions. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. The first one is like when you were speaking about your projects, it sounded like there are a lot of time between each project. So like, how'd you deal with that? Because I know like when I try to make stuff, like it's hard to stay on one thing because like you make something and it sparks another idea, and you got another idea, and you want to do them all, but you don't have the time. So how'd you work on like time management or like stuff like that? And then the second one was like, did you ever have a scenario where someone asked you to, like, let's say, commission something, not commission, because like something where you weren't paid, but like they asked you to do something, but then they ended up going with someone else? How'd you like deal with that one? And third one just slipped my mind. But.
So the first one, I think you were talking about time management.
Yeah.
And that's super important. And I will say, just as an example, in the most recent example, last year was one of the busiest years I've ever had. After doing the Black Lives Matter mural, commissions and projects were coming left and right, which are great. You're getting paid for it, you're getting more money for it. So my thing was, I just didn't want to say no, and I really overexerted myself last summer. I was doing like 3 or 4 murals at a time. I would go one place at 5 in the morning, leave there, go somewhere else. I mean, these murals were huge. Had to be ready for art shows. Maybe they needed 12 pieces. I mean, it was a lot. So learning to pace myself, learning to say no if I can't, because you don't want to just overdo it and then you're not giving quality work. So just knowing how to balance, because I am a full-time artist, so negotiating what I get paid for certain things, knowing if it's fair or not. And a lot of artists, you know, they'll just take something and they don't even realize they're shorting themselves, or some artists come in and they're charging too much, and you're like, you've never done a mural in your life, you can't charge that. But and another thing, what was the other question?
It was how did you deal with, like, let's say someone asked you to make artwork, but then they went with someone else instead after you put in all the time and stuff?
Yeah, I still charge them, because if they would, and you have to get tough with that too, because some people will come to you and they say, oh, I have this concept and can you do this and this and this? That takes my time. First of all, we've talked on the phone for an hour. Second, now you want to do a Zoom. Third, you want me to provide a concept. Fourth, you want me to provide the contract. Whatever it is, while you're doing that, I'm calculating my hours. And see, they sometimes get a little irritated, but I don't care. I invoice them, I say, look, this is my business. That's fine if you want to pass, but you're going to pay me for my time. So you just have to be very stern about that. You don't have to be rude or anything. You just tell them it's a business. Also, certain companies, which they should, will provide you with paperwork and contracts, right? Well, it's okay for you to have a contract too, because I've been in situations, I've done commissions, signed contracts, and the money, thanks, they were late paying, or they just were delayed. So you do have to sometimes set your ground rules schedules too and say, well, it needs to be paid within 30 days or 45 days or something like that, just so they're not getting the artwork and then all of a sudden you're left, you know, with nothing. And it happens too often, I hate to say that. And I did a great commission too. I did a commission with the Colts. I got to paint on some cleats it was called My Cause, My Cleats. So I do a lot of work too, whether it's dedicating my time or volunteering. So I think it evens out. So it's okay to have work where you're paid for it, but I think it's good to give back too.
Fine.
No, you're fine, sorry. Yeah, any other questions? Okay.
I remember the third one. So, like, when you were making art like this, in like your younger days or like whatever, did you ever have a time where you felt like you needed to mimic something someone else was doing to try to get into the spotlight?
Do what someone else is doing?
Yeah, let's say like someone painted something or like made an artwork or a piece, and it like everyone was like seeming to like that piece for like the things that were done in it. Like, did you ever feel like you had to like try to mimic it or like try to like yes, yeah.
No, and that's a good question too, and it happens, and I don't know how many of you, I'm sure on Instagram and TikTok and things like that, there's a lot of stuff that's becoming really cookie cutter to me, and trendy, and I try to avoid that. I mean, I'm on social media too, but I try not to let that influence me. I like to just come up with my own ideas and concepts. Nothing wrong with getting inspired, but I think you just have to trust your talent, and it's okay to research. It's okay to be inspired, but always just be authentic. I hate that I can't see your faces because it's so weird for me.
I don't really know how to format this question, but like, just this in general, like talking has inspired me a lot.
Thank you.
I made a poem and I performed it for my school. It was very controversial. I had a lot of looks.
Okay.
But I love doing it. I really, really love doing it. And what I was talking about, I was obviously the message. And as a young, like, you know, a young person, how do you continue to spread that now?
As far as spreading.
Because I don't want to, like, go to college and wait years until to use my voice. So how would I use it?
Email me and I'll put you on the spot to do something. So now that you've told me that, I mean, and I would never push anybody to do anything, but I would love to encourage you, and I would love to get to know you and put you in a comfortable environment to be able to do more poetry or learn how to speak in front of other people. Like I said, that might just be a hobby for you, an outlet for you. And then you never know, it might turn into something like, wow, I'm really good at this. I might be speaking at the next inauguration or something. So I truly mean that. All of you, if there's something you want to know or something you want to do or something that I might have the answer to, just email me.
Is there a form of art that you just don't like doing, or is that kind of like just like anything, where there are things that you like and dislike, or is it like you're like all in for everything?
No, graphic design. And people ask me all the time. Most of my closest clients, it's because I like them and I'll do it. But I don't know. I just always, every time I have to do something to do with graphic design, it drives me insane. But I'll still do it. I still respect it, and I do all my own like branding and that's another thing. Learn how to do a lot of stuff on your own. If you don't have the money, or a budget to do certain things, and some people let that hold them back, and they'll say, "Well, I don't have the money to do that." You can find a way. You can figure out a way to cut costs or work around that. And I had to learn how to be my own PR person, my own branding, building my own website, learning how to do a shopping cart. You just gotta learn, and then it's good when you learn, because when you get to a point where you want to hire someone else, you can stay on top of them and say, okay, you either know what you're doing or I'm about to fire you. So, yeah. And I brought these because I want everybody to have a piece of the artwork that I did New Nation. So I signed all of them, and I can leave them up here, but if you have other questions and the people that can't stay, you're welcome to pull me to the side if you want to chat. I'll leave these up here, you could grab one. And if you would, for me, I would love for everyone to just get a touch of the actual street of my letter. And if there's not anything else, then.
Can we take a group picture with you?
Yeah,
Just
sure.
get up and-
Can we take it with the picture of John Lewis? That'd be awesome. Awesome, you're the best. Would you like to use my generic? Does anybody have like a really nice one? Because all I've got is a 10. Because, you know, I'm not trying to impress people. I got a whole more.
You have to get in there, Josh. Okay, you guys gotta get together, like,
I'll put my mask.
oh, okay, we're going, get on different levels, and just everybody get. These pants can do that. Come on.
Rebecca, if you want to just, yeah.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Standing.
Take the pictures if you want.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Alright.
This time we're going for something else.
Oh my God. Oh, and also, I have the table over there with my portfolio.
That's dress code right here.
Oh,
That's my mix. This is college. This is college.
ill Darren, yeah, 2 minutes. I'll take you in here. You can do some
You know, I had never heard,
And make sure, I don't know if anyone got a chance to, touch the John Lewis. Our hands are all up. Oh, good. Whoa.
this is like the tar part. The contrast between the heart and it's like the squishy.
Try taking takes of this, like try once and then you start over. It's like one take.
One and
You get
done.
one step and you gotta get it while
Gotta
it's
get it
good.
right.
My mom was a
Yeah, I remember what 5 minutes were. I know, but because I was there for. Okay. Do you know Antoinette Dingle? Oh, Dingle is Welch now. Yeah, I told her I was gonna be. We were in the same class. And I know Alex. And,
Yeah, that's how you gave the shout out to our center.
yeah. Central. Work on Central. 98.
Okay,
They've
that
changed
campus.
so much. I haven't been there. I used to go, you know,
Yeah,
every Christmas
and
I go
then
to
yeah, and then you're like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah, so but I heard they've done so much renovation, the law school, the nursing school.
Yeah, I always hope, you know, because sometimes it's not easy to go to our school. Hey, friends, as you guys are talking, let's make certain that we say thank you, even if you're coming to say, to speak to Ms. Robinson directly. I just want to make certain that, you know.
You'll be hearing from a lot of us.
Right. Like I have all these Lawrence North here.
You've inspired us. We're the kids from the BHM.
Who's coming to pick you up? My mother. Is she here? I actually don't know who picked her. I just said, is she here?
I need to get this fixed. You don't remember it? You don't know it?
Is he his president?
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, appreciate you guys. We're introducing people here.
Like there wasn't anything in there.
Well, there was a lot more people who didn't grab all of it. Not that I'm doing my own stuff, because I'm not that person. I'm not petty at all.
The least petty person I know.
One thing I know for sure is I'm not gonna call anybody out. That's not my way. It's not my fault.
I was going to send you a message to talk about how you left without speaking to me, but